Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome. Welcome back to our My Spiritual Money RX show every Wednesday. And thank you so much for tuning in. So, we know that money is energy and that money is spiritual, therefore, money is an unlimited resource. And we always allow ourselves to open up to the different possibilities of what life can bring to us, how the universe can open up for us. And today I have a very, very special guest for you that this particular beautiful lady I have really allowed her to help us in our business, in our lives, personally, financially. She's my business astrologer. She's my personal astrologer as well. And she has helped a lot of my clients in my Gold VIP and 90-day success programs get some clarity, get alignment, not only in their soul purpose based on their astrology, but also based on some of the past life behaviors and patterns that they've had. So it has made tremendous increase in clarity, not only for me on how I can support my clients, but also how they can stand up in their own power and be clear on what they would deliver in their business. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Miss Milada Sakic. Yay! How
Oh
are
my
you,
goodness. I am great. So wonderful to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Vivian. So
you.
excited to be here and thank you for your beautiful introduction.
Oh,
And excited to be here.
me too. Me too. So share with us a little bit about. Well, let's tell viewers what is astrology and how does that relate to business.
Hmm. So astrology is really it's the art and science of understanding, and then if you like, also embodying what makes sense to us, the celestial language, or really the language of the stars, as we say. Really, that's really what the word means, and then how to translate that in ways that is relevant to us here on the planet Earth. But also there is the multidimensional element to it, which is what I like to bring into my work, which is astrology of wholeness. So understanding that while we have, there's a physical 3D component to it, there is the spiritual, there is the mental, if you like. We've got the mind, body, spirit, wholeness. So that's basically a little bit about my perspective and what it means.
Yes. And as far as how does the stars, right, relate to our business? So I know I've used astrology in the past, like people might maybe Google them, or I used to read those, in newspapers, the horoscopes and things like that, right? The different planets, the different signs. And how does that relate to business?
Yeah, so a great question. So the horoscopes, so the newspaper horoscopes are a little bit more, they serve their purpose to popularize astrology, to help to make it more accessible, right, to a regular person, and which, otherwise people maybe wouldn't really have access to that. And but it's also generalized, right, based on just one of the elements of our astrology chart, which is our sun sign, and perhaps our rising sign in some cases.
Right.
So there are many other elements that that really help us to better understand from an astrology. First of all, for me, foundationally, astrology of wholeness perspective, because again, we're a whole lot more than also our image and so on. But also there are certain specific elements in your astrology chart, right, in your cosmic design, as I like to call it, which I actually, for me, it's a bigger understanding and a really more multi-dimensional understanding of a birth chart, which is more two-dimensional, right? It's a map. It's a map, just as any map to getting to a particular location is. But once you get to that location, you're like, oh, okay, right. Thanks to the map, I'm here. But there is this city, this place is a whole lot more glorious, right?
Right.
And so there is an experiential element to it. So that's how I understand cosmic design. So in an astrology chart, once we know where to look and what to connect with. There are specific elements that help us to really get clear. For example, there are many, but let's say that some of the really specific ones are knowing ourselves, as I like to call it. So this is specifically in how we show up, and it's directly connected to our relationship with our body and our personal space as well, which we also refer to that as a relationship to to ourselves. Now, that there is a whole lot more to that, because that essential relationship to ourselves is actually also, once again, directly connected to how we show up, to a relationship with our body, how we take care of our physical well-being, because that is the most tangible, but then also being in touch with our gifts, right? So do we know what our core gifts are? How do we lean into those gifts? So that is also very important. And then also, how do we, do we lean into them? Do we operate from that place of strength? Do we invest in those gifts? And also, do we offer it as a medicine to the world? So another important element is, now once we know who we are here to be, and really how to cultivate that relationship, and this is going to be unique to everybody in terms of what that specific unique guiding principle is for you to know yourself better. And then knowing our gifts is, how do we talk about it? How do we share? What are the conversations that we're here to have? These are some of the questions that I get a lot, and that I'm actually very passionate about helping spiritual entrepreneurs, healer teachers to get clear on. And then, so I'll mention just a couple more elements, as well as knowing who our ideal client is, or our ideal audience and community, which can be a little bit more niche, if you'd like, and then it can also be larger audience, depending on what our purpose, and then a little bit more focused element or aspect or dimension of that purpose is, which is our mission, the way how I understand it. So getting clear about our mission in the world is super helpful, because once again, it helps us to know why we're here on the planet, and while our purpose, as how I understand it, is going to have many more dimensions to it. For example, we can have obviously a professional, if you like, purpose, right, and a vocational, and but we can also have a family purpose, right? We can have a community purpose. And so knowing our mission, knowing ourselves, our core gifts, what are we here? How do we really talk about what we're here to do? So part of that is content, but part of that is a specific energy and frequency that we're here to bring forward, even when we're not perfect, even when we're not super clear about every single thing that we need to know or talk about. And so these are some of the elements and some of the really key questions that I am continually, almost on a daily basis, right, coming back to help my clients to get clarity on. So there's more to that, but those are some of the core elements that are I have already experienced many times over, right, are very, very helpful to entrepreneurs, but also those that are transitioning from, let's say, corporate to public service, right, corporate world, public service, and into entrepreneurship, where we really then have to get clear with these things, because
Yes.
right, in today's day and age, we are here to be our message, so to say.
Yes. So obviously, as even in my own experience, right? So when you read my chart, and I'll share this with the audience, I was asking her, how can I best show up as a spiritual entrepreneur, right? Because somehow for a lot of people, there's a disconnect between money and then how can we serve others? And so my job always is to bridge that gap by connecting the science and spirit world somehow, and then delivering that 5D message into the 3D world. So when Milada read my chart, it was very helpful for me to understand that I had a queen archetype in the past, but I didn't need to prove myself in this lifetime. It was my old lifetime, right? That I didn't need to prove myself to be a queen. I needed this lifetime to be an expert teacher embodied in integrity. And so as you can see how that would translate into the core values and gifts that she was sharing with you, is I needed to make sure that I am embodied in integrity and I'm showing up with my gifts, And most healers and most spiritual teachers like to hide, and I've done that hiding for a long time.
Mm.
And it's like you can be a fourth hiding, an eighth hiding, a halfway hiding. I was
Oh,
hiding,
yeah.
right? Like that. It's a very it's like a camouflage technique. Like I'll hide behind the bush, behind my professional title as a physical therapist. I did that for years.
Mm.
And then I'm like, well, I guess I shouldn't be doing this now. Maybe there's another facet. So that's what she was talking about when she was sharing with us, like the different facets of, yes, I have a map. I'm supposed to be an intuitive healer in the spotlight, according to a scientific hand analyst that I consulted. However, when I got there, I still don't know how to show up. And Milada has helped me with her reading get clear on who's my ideal audience, right? And what language or messaging can I actually say, because I was confusing people when I was saying the previous message versus people want pleasure, ease, grace, and flow in making money. That's really what I'm good at doing. But you know how you hide from that because you think you're going to get
Mhm.
killed again, right? A past life experience may show up. Something will show up that would tell you, or my monkey brain, my monkey mind saying, no, don't do that because you're going to get killed again. So please don't do that again.
Mm.
So the subconscious mind is saying, no, 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 you got to show up. But then my other monkey mind says, no, 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 don't do that. So there's
Yeah.
always a conflict and a battle between the two. And
And the
it's,
old patterns too.
yes, the old patterns show up. And then I go, wait a minute, she said, this is how I would show up now in order to bring more light into the world and have my business shine. Not the old me, not the hiding me, but the new me with all my core gifts and values
Mm.
and my intention to serve the people who really want to connect with me, right? So thank you for that,
Absolutely.
Milana. That was like a big aha
Mm. So welcome.
for
So grateful too. And thank you for letting me know.
right. So, is there a way for money healers, spiritual entrepreneurs, prosperity creators, and other transformational leaders and coaches to benefit from owning their, like raising their worthiness in alignment with their core values and their cosmic design? Like when they know their astrology,
Hmm.
how can they actually line up to that? Like I'm still finding my way because we're not perfect, right? It doesn't mean that I have the information that tomorrow I'll wake up and
Yeah.
ta-da, I'm a brand new person. It doesn't quite work like that. It's always a journey.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that question, and so what you just shared, Vivian, as well. So thank you for that. So it really speaks to that what you were sharing in terms of how, right? So we all have this certain way of being that we have practiced, right, for so long. So it's actually how we have known ourselves.
Mm,
So it is not right or wrong, just how we have known ourselves. And then, as I oftentimes like to say, as I see and experience when I'm doing readings, is that then we review that right in between lifetimes, and then we decide, okay, when I come back, I want to do things a little bit differently. I want to practice this particular skill, or I want to show up in this way. Basically, really. Aligning more for that next level growth, right? For that next level soul alignment. And then also what it is that we want to embody more so that we can fulfill the next really step in our evolution, but also mission more with more ease, grace, and really whatever it is that's in alignment with our design. So when it comes to prosperity, so to your question, so now once we know that we have certain patterns, right? So hopefully, we have some idea, as you said, we don't always, it's not easy. Even for me, I've been studying it, and for 3 decades and plus, so more than 3 decades, I've been practicing it for a couple of decades and teaching it for over a decade. And it's still every single day
yes.
is a process in what does this really mean? How do we, with the Taurus sun, but I keep that in mind. So what
Mm,
I like to, or the Aquarius moon, I don't know, how do we integrate that from a wholeness perspective? So there are some specific keys for well-being, and really creating true prosperity that I like to translate, to help translate for my clients, and then making sure that it makes sense
Yes.
for you in that moment. Because if we were having that conversation 5 years ago, would have been perhaps slightly different than what you were embodying and even willing to, right, let in today. So that also very much matters. So once we're okay in agreement, you're like, Milada, yes, that's what it is, right? And how do I do that? Then we can have some sort of okay, an agreement and a plan. Okay, this is what, right, you're going to work on. And you obviously still have very much a choice. It's a daily choice. We can sometimes go back and say, you know what, maybe I want to still continue focusing on this a little bit more. Sometimes we actually need to, I call that also really finding an effective expression, even for our, what we call a past pattern. It's not always, from a wholeness perspective, it's not always just about the what's the new way. It is also what's the effective expression of knowing myself now in this sort of more, if you like, an ancient way, because it has a gift with that, meaning everything that we have been. Everything that we have been, there is an infinite wisdom in that. So now to bring that again to earth. So from a prosperity perspective, now that we know our gifts, that we know how to show up, and we have some idea as to what we're here to talk about, and is actually then on a daily basis when it comes to raising our worthiness, which is so very important. I'm so glad you brought that up, Vivian, because that's one of my really favorite things to remind people and wealth creators, business owners, healers, is these are the specific things that you got to invest in. And it's not always what people would expect. It's not necessarily like, okay, this is what you need to, invest your money, or this is the coaching you need to invest in. It's our actually specific, I actually call them daily prosperity habits or even energies. And this can be very different things for different people. So there is the habitual, like developing new habits and knowing what specific habits, what daily prosperity habits that are directly also connected and affirming to our well-being. That when we invest in that, meaning, yes, our time, money, and resources, and very much also offering that to the world, right? Something magical happens, really. So there is the practical component to that, but there is the energy, right, that is activated that helps us to know ourselves, not just in how I need to show up, but actually who do I need to be. And really, and then, big part of that is also receiving that feedback, obviously, when we offer what we've got to offer here. But so it's having, again, these prosperity habits that, and continually knowing what that is in simpler terms. Well-being key is because in the beginning process, it is a concept. It's like, oh, okay, it makes sense. But then it kind of drops in. Maybe the next time we talk or the next time you apply this, it's like, okay, that thing you were telling, oftentimes I'll hear, Milada, I got that thing right away, but then now I get what you were telling me 3 months ago or a year ago, because now it dropped in, right? We applied it. Now it dropped in to the heart level. So there is that different levels of embodiment as well, and that is the mystery, right, and the miracle of how that also works.
Yeah, I call that
based on our choice.
Yes. And I see this a lot even in my clients that step into the 90-day success, which is a 6-figure container, or the other one is the gold VIP, which is a 7-figure container. The acceleration process is so much faster, of course, as you want more out of life, right? It's like a growth container. And then they get the message, they know all the information, and then they put the brake and the gas on at the same time, which means they get stuck somewhere, and then they focus on that, then they can't move, right? And hence that's why they work on energy, and we ask for your services to give us some insight on how they can move forward so that they can actually focus on what's that future self looking like. And what's the action? The embodiment is in the action, right? So we get the information from the stars, and then we're like, okay, how do we do this? We work on it by applying and putting it into action, because that's where the embodiment happens. Like you said, is through the body. If they meditate, like if you read books about meditation, but then you don't really meditate every day, that doesn't work very good, right? Now, if you are meditating every day now, and then you start to teach someone else how to meditate, and how to feel better, now that's
Yeah.
steps ahead now, right? You're helping not just yourself to feel better, but other people as well. So thank you for that. I wanted to get some of the viewers' comments from just what you shared, because that's a lot of beautiful, magical information. So I said, we're happy, Dr. Andrea Greiner. So happy you both are doing the show today. Thank you for watching,
Andrea,
Dr. Andrea.
thank you. So great
Yeah.
you're here.
Oh, look at that. Yes, hiding. I can resonate. Yes, I know. We all do hiding. All the spiritual healers and spiritual business entrepreneurs, usually there's an element of that, because in my work, the spiritual boundary is the biggest boundary, right? That's the most people feel before you even open your mouth or say whatever you needed to say. But yeah, that's the key there, is they feel your spirit, and they also feel that you're growing and you're moving forward. Even if you're afraid, you're still moving through that. So that's all good. Ooh, there's the sun from Rebecca. Rebecca, thanks for joining us today. So she gave us, we posted this on Facebook. Please
Oh,
show
yes.
us your sun sign or your moon sign. And so perhaps this is your specialty. So take it away. Maybe you can give her some
Sure.
tips for prosperity and vitality in her business or in her life.
Great, great. So hi, Rebecca. So great. So I'm so happy we've got the first question as well. And so before I answer the question, because I'm seeing we've got Sun in Leo and Moon in Aries, Rebecca. So that's a double fire, and knowing what's going on in the world, right, in the United States in particular with fires, right? Because I know we've been talking about the element of fire, one of the elements that's been really calling our attention. So I just wanted to extend my prayers to anybody, especially who's listening and who's in our communities, to stay safe and protected during this time if you're in the path of that. So to your question, in terms of some tips, just based on knowing your sun sign and your moon sign, in terms of what are some of the things and practices you can cultivate on a daily basis, right, to activate your well-being and prosperity. So Rebecca, for you, what I would, element of fire is about energizing, right? So we're thinking, what is that element inviting us to do? So it is inviting us to really connect in with the spirit of that enthusiasm. With Aries, it's confidence and clarity. Moon in Aries in particular, clarity and confidence of your needs, and really, so with Aries moon, especially once we are in our adulthood, so very important for you to on a daily basis to be clear on what is the emotional state, what is the desired state that you want to cultivate, knowing what you need and being willing to express that, right? So having that clarity of needs is very important, rather than waiting for somebody else to let you know. So oftentimes I will see it with Aries moon, is because there is an above average need to be seen and recognized. But it's also important for you to say, this is what I need, right? This is, this is how I know I can be supported, right? So that you sort of cultivate, you create space for that nurturing to happen. And then with the sun in Leo, is also really cultivating your creativity. So that means on a daily basis, really looking for creating experiences. So now for me, sort of generalized astrology, it would be, let's, describing yourself as a joyful or creative, and this is oftentimes what we would hear. What I like to remind is actually what do you need to cultivate? Meaning, who are you becoming? So with the sun in Leo, really, it is about cultivating the positive enthusiasm. As much as we usually, from a wholeness perspective, sometimes we avoid saying, oh, positive and the negative. But when it comes to the fire signs, it really makes a difference. And when you talk to Leos, right, it usually, without getting into the full story of that, or like the rest of the chart, which I do not know at this point, right, it will hopefully make sense to you. So cultivating creativity, cultivating really your personal creativity, and doing something every day where you can say, I am creating the experience, you're choosing, you're making choices, so that your creativity, your Your happiness matters. So this can be about creativity. This can be about your lifestyle. This is about recognizing that life is more than work, for example, for Sun and Leo. Okay. So I hope that makes sense and helps.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question.
That's loving, loving energies there. And I'm sure for some people, if they're not used to doing that, right, taking care of themselves, that's a new thing. All right. So, Michelle Wilson, thank you, Michelle, for tuning in. Thank you. So interesting. Oh, she just had a reading with you yesterday. Her sun sign
Thank you for being
is
here.
Cancer, but then her moon sign she doesn't know, but it says, is that Scorpio? So
It is, and if I do remember, yes, it is. So great and so wonderful to meet you. Thank you for being here, Michelle. So with yes, that will be literally the first degree of Scorpio. So just looking at that because you've highlighted it, and there is a reason, right, that that's being brought forward. Um, I just talked about the moon in Aries, which is about clarity of needs, and now moon in Scorpio is also ruled by Mars, which is very much in focus this week. In fact, today is its station, so it's also about this what we call potency. Now in Aries, it's like we gotta be super clear and say, again, as I was sharing with Rebecca, this is what I need, and then express that and ask for, nurture that. With Scorpio, now moon in Scorpio, Michelle, for you, it is now deeper awareness of the more intimate needs. That some of that may be shared a little bit more openly, and some of that may be shared more with those that you can really trust. So if I would have to translate this in a sort of more concise format, would be really getting in touch with some of the most intimate and core needs right now that help you to feel authentic and feel really whole. Because Scorpio is very much about wholeness, including emotional wholeness, and being willing to say, for example, that really was hurtful. So that would be like emotional authenticity. So if somebody hurts your feelings, you say, that was, rather than kind of stewing on that, right, for a little bit, is actually cultivating this. What am I feeling? Like knowing what am I feeling right now, and then actually being willing to, without kind of, because it's different than Aries. Aries is like, this is what I need. Scorpio is like, let me sit with that. Is this, what is the emotion here? And then seeing, really knowing, tuning in, right? Who is it where can you feel safe enough, right? The trusted others, right? That can hold that sacred container for you, including you for yourself, where you can get in touch with those deeper, more intimate, right? Longings, if you like, and emotions. So I hope that helps.
wow. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, Angela Page. Oh, okay. So Michelle said, okay, looked it up. Yep, good to know my moon sign. Perfect.
Yay.
Awesome. So there's another question here. Angela Page says she's the sun in Taurus, moon in Capricorn, ascendant in Leo.
Great, love it. So you've got double Earth, right? So even if we just look at it from an elemental perspective in terms of because the sun and moon, and I'm so glad you mentioned Angela, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. In terms of these three primary elements that help us to know ourselves and to, again, cultivate well-being. So sun and moon, very essential and very important to really cultivate and nurture, so in as balanced way as possible, although it may not always look like balance unless you're a Libra. So when you have sun in Taurus, it's more about, what do I need to embody? What do I need to bring, right? As Vivian, you were sharing before, like from 5D to 3D. This is about oftentimes what I see with healers and spiritual entrepreneurs, with sun in Taurus, is important to talk about raising our worthiness and have specific habits on a daily basis, including your embodiment practices being very important, that you can be willing to, for example, offer your work. So we're talking specific, similar to what Vivian was talking about, bringing the more specificity to your connection with your body, your connection with the money, and actually how you earn that money, how you share that, how you invest it. and then also your business, right? So these 3D vehicles for expressing your purpose. Okay, and then it was the moon in Capricorn, if I recall, and that the ascendant in a Leo. So with the moon in Capricorn, it is, there's that deeper, already innate desire to achieve. That's right. So I see it now on the screen again. Desire to achieve, right? So it's recognizing that your inner achiever, right, is very much supported by your Taurus sun. So it's bringing that into, for example, Sun in Taurus would be what I typically recommend is being willing to sell and offer your services. So really being with that on a daily basis and in practicality, knowing how that looks like, and then increasing that worthiness and these daily prosperity habits. So you can say, okay, right, there is a huge potential to increase your worthiness with the sun in Taurus. And then the ascendant Leo, really prioritizing from first thing in the morning things that really to help you to really experience more joy in the world, and then also create, to really heart center, to really connect with your heart, and your creativity first thing in the morning. Okay, those are some of the things that I like to prioritize in this amount of time, short amount of time that we have. So I hope that helps.
Yes. Okay, so we have another Facebook user, Sun Taurus and Moon Gemini.
Oh, fantastic. So we have another Taurus. I was just sharing about that. I will focus more on Moon and Gemini, but this is now, not sure what the person's name is. Welcome. It is now a different combination. So this is the beauty of saying, okay, so we had two sun moon, right? Sun moon, or solar lunar wholeness, as I like to refer to it, more earthy, really more embodied, right? Practical perspective to our purpose, if you like, and then now this is Moon in Gemini. There is a need to communicate and to be understood. So from a Gemini Moon perspective, this is now obviously once we're adults, when we're children, ideally our parents are aware of that. This would have been especially for Aries Moon, oftentimes Aries Moon, but even I'm going to say fire moons and even air moons can be misunderstood. So Gemini moons can also be misunderstood because they have a lot of questions, oftentimes very curious. And so depending on where your moon is in your chart, right, that can show up in different ways. But so once we're adults, it's so important for you to cultivate that curiosity and to say, I've got these questions, these things don't make sense. And also to have conversations and a dialogue with those people that are, right, if you'd like, offering that energy and that understanding that it's got to make sense to you. It's got to make sense to you. And so that your Taurus sun also can say, okay, and this is how I apply that. So cultivating some of that, or nurturing that desire for a dialogue, maybe for writing, speaking as well, maybe journaling, right? So that you can translate some of the, let's say, thought information into, and from a conceptual then into physical. So I hope that serves with the not knowing also where the sun and the moon are in your chart in terms of the houses. So I hope that helps and gives you a spark of inspiration.
Okay. Okay, so we have one more comment. Sarah is rising in Leo, Sun Scorpio, Moon Libra.
Welcome, RTA. So rising in Leo, Sun in Scorpio, Moon Libra. So that's very interesting combination, right? Of a really diversity of elements, you could say. So we've got fire, right? Fire, sun sign, water, rather a fire rising sign, water, sun sign, and air. So that also tells us that the importance of wholeness and really integrating these three elements, which would be our spirit, which would be also our really the social. The sun is the social principle. So really, how do we connect with the world? And then on an innate level, right, with the moon in Libra, recognizing and nurturing that innate need that you have to be related to, somewhat like that Gemini moon that likes to be understood and have questions answered and not be told, don't ask those questions, right? Moon in Libra now has even a deeper need, like the next level, Gemini, which also really has a need to be related to as an equal. And that is very important. So the relationships are important. And then creating experiences. So again, once we're adults, right, creating experiences where we choose to be social, right? Knowing with the sun in Scorpio is also knowing, right? It's with Scorpio, it's always about the trust as well. Who can you trust? And if, when people say, oh, you're a little too intense or whatever it is that people can, oh, you're Scorpio, right? This is what I read in the book. Matters not, but what matters to you, to know what you need to cultivate. And that is, you reserve the right to your privacy. You reserve the right to say, you know, I feel great, or I feel good, or I feel authentic in the presence of that person or that community. And I, not everybody needs to know my business, basically. And so if people say I am not enough or too much for somebody, well, right, that will already telling you what you need to, you got to trust those instincts as well. So don't let other people, oftentimes will project either on Geminis, Scorpios, right, the stuff that they read in the book. You got to trust your instincts. Okay.
Awesome. Those are wonderful. Thank you so much. So I feel like the audience, it got excited from all of the things you're sharing from every single one of them, right? So let's just take 3 deep breaths right now. We just need to ground that energy so that the message can be received and integrated into the body. So let's take a deep breath. Let's breathe in blue, and then we can breathe out red. One more time, 2 more times. Take a deep breath in, release. One more, please. Take a deep breath in, release. Okay. There goes my intuitive side, feeling all this. Because when the energy is almost to the point of hyperactivity, then people get excited, but as soon as they go back to their homes or their normal activities, they don't know how to integrate or interpret what just was delivered. Like they couldn't even receive those things that you've said, which are all wonderful ways. And partly because, like you said, they have their old patterns, right? And maybe there's no room yet. That's why I ask people to just breathe it out and ground that.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Okay.
So we're going to set the intent, whoever was meant to receive, right, that any of that information or insight for your highest good and healing is that, right, so be it. So you choose what of that will be in your highest good to integrate today. So
for that. Awesome. Okay, so that pause, ladies and gentlemen, is a very important thing in life, because we think as business owners that we just have to run, when if you actually just calm down, everything she told you, it resonated with you, usually your higher self, and when you bring it down to your heart and into your body, it's easy to implement the changes that you need to make in order to make that happen. So you look like you're more in alignment inside and out with that version of your sun and moon signs. That's really the gift there that she's giving us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. So
thank you so much.
So my next question is a bit, I needed to do that because my next question is about financial astrology, right? Like,
oh, yes.
Why is it important at this time? I mean, everything's happening in the world, fires everywhere, people are uncertain, there's so much chaos. So why is it important to understand our financial astrology in this great transformational times in society?
Yeah. Great question. So thank you for bringing that forward, and also, right, in the context of what's happening. And those are the questions that I've asked myself, right, many times. And I know that many of us are asking those questions too, which is where it is so helpful when we can remember some of these guiding principles, right, that remind us of why we're here. So for me, that's first of all, it's an expression of my purpose, and so I'm trusting and knowing, and that's typically how it works, right? When we are brave enough to bring that forward, even when our mind will, at first, right, questions like why. 2-3 years ago, when that came for, first Astrology of Wholeness, and I'm like, what is the big deal with this? Why am I, guided? Like, and I was just here, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. There's just not enough information about it, or right. So it's like, write your own manual. And then financial, I'm like, why is that important? So some of these things, I'm like, I don't know if I want to talk about financial astrology of all things. Like, give me an easier assignment.
Yep.
But then when I understood, and when I was shown, and when I could see astrologically a lot of the things that played out that I warned my clients, and they were aware for the past few years.
Mm.
Understanding, for example, from the real estate cycles here in Canada that we had several years ago, and everybody was like, Milada, how, to telling my bank
Mm.
representative back in 2008.
Yes.
So here's an example. We were buying we sold our previous home, and then we were buying our new home. So it was October 2008. We are, rather 2018. And so we were sitting there in the office with a mortgage broker, letting us know, obviously, to close the mortgage. It's like, well, they're anticipating they're going to be raising interest rates 3 times next year. And then, just Vivian, as you took that pause, I took that pause and said, I hear you, but that's not what I see. They're not going to be raising interest rates in 2019. If anything, they're going to be holding them, and more likely actually needing to start lowering them, because I could see that the economic contraction was coming. And so I was talking about this, trying to keep it as positive as I could, but also, in fact, even warned people at the time when it was October 1st and the 15th of 2018. Because I could see some of these things coming. So it helped in my own life to make some decisions to know, let's say, choose variable mortgage versus a fixed mortgage, to where now, to then helping my clients in many cases. So it really starts with helping them raise worthiness. So there is an energetic to it. So even though we're saying financial astrology, and oftentimes it is general, or even in astrological field, it's about how to trade stocks and in the stock market, but actually how I teach financial astrology, you're not going to find anywhere else. It is very much there is a lot of foundational stuff that I teach in Astrology for Business, Astrology of Wholeness. We start from really understanding who you are.
Yep.
What is the energetic that you're here to be, and what is your mission, how to increase your worthiness, because that is so important. And then, in the next level, then we talk about these larger cycles as well. So, and, to last point here, God knows I could talk about this on and on, but the last point, also knowing the upcoming other cycles that are coming, right, that I've been referring to, the new economy. So from a timing perspective, the new economy timer that I've been talking about is this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that is coming up in December. Now, these other conjunctions that we had this year, right? Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Pluto, for a second conjunction, and then the third conjunction, they've sort of created the path to start clearing and dismantling some of the systems, including the really the economic. Big part of that is realizing, okay, this economic system is actually shifting into its next stage, right? So so the late stage capitalism, for example, and to really understanding this from the perspective of cycles is helpful. And then, but also being anchored in, so knowing what to expect to the best of our ability. I mean, nobody knows everything. I don't know everything, but I know enough so that I can still allow some space for grace, help my clients to trust their own intuition and what they're guided, and remind them of who they truly are and how to raise their worthiness, and really express themselves more fully, and stay on purpose and on mission in the most harmonious and joyously prosperous way whenever possible, right? And staying authentic and real during these times as well, because we've got to stay in touch with our humanity and our community.
Definitely. So I wanted to touch base on that worthiness issue because I see that a lot. Obviously, I do money block clearings and money magnet activations. And it's so interesting that majority of people's patterns I've seen, I would clear the energy of how come they have these poverty mindset consciousness, right? Or majority, it's almost like a higher percentage. It could be 80% poverty mindset and 20% wealthy mindset. You can clear that
Hmm.
and balance that out. But then people tend to go back and bring and invite their old patterns back because they're very comfortable with that pattern, right? So it's interesting you mentioned that word worthiness because that's the number one thing that I see in why people could not either, they would complain, I don't have enough clients coming in, or they would say, how come my income or revenue doesn't go up a certain level and it's always the same no matter how hard I work? And
Yeah.
as the change of times happen, it's very interesting. I'll share this personal experience with me meditating one day. I was doing nature walks and I was a little bit frustrated when I was looking at my gauge of prosperity or even allowing prosperity to come in, right? Like, or even my clarity to come in. And I got at
Mm.
that time 60%. I think it was around 2018 or so. And then I asked God, I said, God, how come I'm only 60%? I've been doing this clearing work for like years. And then I heard a voice saying, well, if you're 100%, then you really won't need me at this time, right? And then I was like, ooh, oh, I
No
guess
space for
more
grace.
lessons to learn. So then I kept on going, right? Because I was getting frustrated at that time. I'm like, I've been doing this for years. How come it's not working? It's not true that it wasn't working. It was working, but it took me into a
Mm.
certain point, and I needed to surrender at that time and go, okay, I guess there are more things for me to learn. And that surrender part, the worthiness part, right? Because I thought
Mm.
I had to do all the effort without relying on spirit or relying on other people, right? Like you, astrologer, and some other people that I've consulted that tremendously helped my growth and progress. So we're not an
Yeah.
island, obviously. So that
Yeah.
worthiness, right? So a lot of healers and spiritual people love to give. I see this a lot, but then
Yeah.
they can't receive. And money is a receiving issue. I've said it time and time again. Like, why can't you receive? Because that will open up the floodgates of abundance for you if
Yeah.
you just know how to receive. And that's the part we forget because as women, right, we like to just do
Mm-hmm.
everything ourselves. I can handle this. Come on, bring it on. It's good. And then you're like, I'm exhausted. So there's no more energy. So I can see that financial astrology helps because
Yeah.
if you have a certain piece of information that you're going to hit a wall at a certain time or a certain month, like, would you still go forward that way, or do you detour, like find a different
Mm-hmm.
route and shift your perspective, right? That's how I see astrology. It's kind of like a guidance system from the
Yeah.
stars, and then you bring it into the 3D reality, and I can start journaling on that and go, how can this affect my life? Like, what shift do I need to make in order for this,
Absolutely.
right, for this block or resistance to be more flowing for me, like more ease and graceful. Yeah, more flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, such
So
such great points, and I wanted just to, if I can, say to that as well is, so there is, I look at true prosperity. So we have prosperity and then true prosperity. So I also help clients to really to even define, so that what the astrology chart really helps us, when we know where to look and how to work with it. Is how to define it. Because if we don't define something, how do we know what we're bringing, what we need to cultivate, what we need to nurture, what we need to invest in? And then I also look at it as a true perspective. I look at it as an infinity. So to Vivian, to what you were sharing, as well as an infinity, really a loop, if you like. So we've got the worthiness on one end, and then we've got the money runes, and they're almost always connected with relationship runes. So there is we're doing some work on this end to know what we need to invest in terms of time and resources. And really, we're talking here at the energetic principles and also how this translates into 3D activities as well. And then also understanding that there could be some money wounds, there could be a relationship, there could be trust wounds that are oftentimes connected, but they're even more specific for the person. There could be money and relationship trauma so it really is, so from that infinity really perspective, the way how I see that is really both. We need to understand this is what I need to invest in and this is what I need to release and heal. And so so it's like the left and the right, the feminine and the masculine balance. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that in my experience, and this has been very much my own, it's a continuous process, is that we actually don't need to have our worthiness at whatever 127 level or whatever that may be, in order to really allowing more true prosperity and creating more true prosperity in form that can be in our business, right? Obviously through money, also through the money that we keep as well, and we can reinvest and the business and investments, relationships, whatever that definition of true prosperity is. Because it's going to vary. For some people, it's also creating that with more ease, so that, making more money with more ease, or really having that life and really business integration, so work and life integration. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that because there are other principles, you could say, and keys that work along with increasing worthiness, because we're never going to be perfect with it. And that is, we gotta start when we have whatever 70% clarity, even if we're brave enough and we've got 60%, start talking about some of the things you're here to talk about, conversations that you're here to have, because it's going to be a process. So embodying the worthiness and then also sharing our message and being our message works really hand in hand. And so once you're willing to start these conversations and keep the dialogue, and then receive the feedback, because a lot of it it's going to be reflected back to you from your clients when you take action and you put your work out there. A lot of the clarity is going to come, there's that certain level of clarity that can only come through action. 70% of, maybe 80% of clarity we can get through knowingness and through life experience. But the remaining clarity can only come through action. So when you take that action, the clients, by a rule, are going to reflect that back to you. And that's really where that, and we got to keep, sometimes we got to tweak the message, sometimes we got to realign, sometimes we're going to go back to the old patterns, and that's okay, as long as we can still know, this is what I got, these are my guiding principles, and this is who I'm here to be, this is what my mission is. So I hope that makes sense.
That's beautiful. Yes. And like you said, it's okay wherever they are in life, just get started. That's really her message for us, to take action, because the clients that are looking for you, they're looking for you, by the way. When you show up, they find you. But if you don't show up or you hide, they can't find you. So you just have to embody that and just be brave enough and say, I'm here and I'm looking for these types of people. So,
yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Milada, for this. And I know you have like a free gift or a website that you can share with the audience today so that they can connect with you and perhaps be part of this Financial Astrology 101. So how can we do that?
So I would love to invite everyone who's resonated with the message, if part of this inspired you, if you feel that this is information that can benefit you, which obviously has been my sincere hope, and to connect with me on Facebook. So I provide a lot of free information on my personal profile, as well as a little bit more, that's really the place where I'm most present. And so some daily inspiration, some even tips on really understanding what's going on in terms of the planetary shifts. And so many people find that very, very, very helpful. So connect with me on Facebook if you would like some astrology insights. And if you would like to go deeper, and if you would like to work with me or understand your chart better, your well-being and prosperity keys in your business, in alignment with your purpose and your mission on the planet, especially from a wholeness perspective, but also financial and business astrology perspective, reach out to me. So you can email me at Milada at miladasakic.com. That's MILADA at MILADASAKIC.com. Or you can message me on Facebook as well. So I have I've gone from being busy to fully booked in August. So I do have a couple of single session spaces that I wanted to extend also to anybody who's listening, who's really, really keen on learning more or hearing more, or receiving some support. So reach out to me if you're really, really keen. And I do also have I have 3 session packages that you can purchase through the website and miladasakic.com. And lastly, I have a financial astrology online course that comes with weekly Q&A support, which clients and students find very, very helpful. So they're like form of mini readings, and as well as actual material that you can apply in your business to learn on a weekly basis, both Q&As and the content. That reach out to me as well, and I will be, because of limited availability, I will be happy to extend that invitation to you if this is really resonating for you and if it's going to be a fit. Okay.
And that starts in November, right? The financial.
Yes, thank you very much. So the course is going to start on the weekend of November 20 or that November 22nd to 23rd, and then it's going to go into the holiday season. So thank you so much for reminding me. So it's going to go into the holiday season, but I typically, if I launch a course, what I oftentimes every year I do in November, then we stop at about mid-December, and then we regroup for I think 1 or couple more weeks in January. So it serves that way. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for gracing our show. I'm sure the audience has enjoyed your insights, and I hope this has helped you, because like I said, I always look first at the spiritual angle before I even go into the relationship, emotion, and physical, because these are just our layers. But when we start lining up, right, our mind, body, spirit, we're just more in the flow. We're in purpose. And then money comes to us with ease, grace, and flow. So that's the purpose of this show, is to help you activate your money flow with just ease, grace, right? Instead of this struggle, because there are different ways of doing that. So I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you, Milada.
And thank you so much, Vivian. It really has been a joy. Thank you very much. And really, it's been great meeting your community and some of our joined communities now. So thank you for having me.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. And next week we're off. And then we're coming back 2 Wednesdays from now. And our special guest is on sacred geometry. So stay tuned for that one. All right. Have a good Wednesday, the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.